Hello everyone, it's me Tabo and welcome to another episode of Coding for Superheroes. Today I'm going to be showing you how I created this animation using platonic solid shapes and instance mesh. Before I continue, take a second to hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified about upcoming tutorials. Okay, let's jump right in. Okay, so as usual, I have my boilerplate code. So we've got our renderer, we've got our perspective camera, we've got a scene, and I've set the scene's background to this color over here. I've set my camera Z position to 15, and then we've got our orbit control. And then over here, we've got our render function where everything will be rendered. Alright, so I'm gonna start by creating two lights. I'm gonna create point light and an ambient light, and I'm gonna set the intensity for our ambient light to 2 and the intensity of our point light to 1. After that, we're gonna add our lights to the scene. Okay, next I'm gonna create an environment map. I'll be using this texture, and this will be made into an equirectangular reflection map. Okay, this just means this is what you would use usually for your environment map, but in this case I'm not gonna be using it for our scene background. This will be used as an environment map for our meshes. This is what will be creating this kind of iridescent display of colors. And so we're going to set the color space to sRGB. The count is what we're going to be using for our instances. So for each geometry instance, we're going to be using a count of 10. So I'm going to create basically 10 instances. Okay, so next we create our 5 geometries, and then we're going to create meshes out of them. So the first one will be a dodecahedron geometry, and then I will scale it to 5. And for this geometry, we'll be using a mesh physical material. These are the values. We're going to give it this color. The wireframe will be false. You can play around with that to see what that looks like. That also looks interesting. And we're going to be using our environment map. This time I'm going to set the side to backside, so we will only be seeing the inside, not the outside. The roughness is 0. The reflectivity, I've set it to 0.2. You can also play around with that. You get different effects. As a result, our transmission will be 1, transparent will be true. We'll set our thickness to 1, and the opacity will be 0.3. So next I create an icosahedron geometry, next octahedron geometry, next is box geometry, and then last is a tetrahedron geometry. Now I have kind of incrementally reduced their size. So this is the biggest, and then the next one will be scaled to 4, the next one will be scaled to 3, next one will be scaled to 2, and then the next one will be scaled to 1. And the other differences will be in the material, right? The differences are the colors first of all, and then the other most important thing is the opacity. Okay, so what I did here, because I have 5 geometries or 5 meshes that I've created, I've just taken 3 and I've divided it by 5. So the opacity is reduced the further down you go, so to speak. Okay, so our tetrahedron geometry will be the smallest, so it's gonna be less opaque than the rest. And this is what kind of creates a better effect. Otherwise, the more the meshes are stacked against each other, then the one that is kind of in the front or the last one tends to have more opacity. I just wanted them to kind of all have a similar kind of transparency to them, and this is what works. So I just keep on incrementing by 0.06 basically for all of them. So overall, that is the only difference. The color, so you can look at these colors, but I will have the code, of course, so you can have a look, because sometimes it's a bit difficult, I know, to see everything because it is so long and not always visible on the screen. Okay, after creating our 5 meshes, then we will add them to our scene like this. So next we're going to create a function called randomizer. Okay, this is what we're going to use to increment the size of our scale. So inside of here we'll just increment the scale by 0.2. And then after that, then we will use the matrix 4 object to update the matrix, and then we'll just apply that to our instance mesh. Okay, so next we will create a variable called time, and we'll set it to 0. And then we'll create another function called animate geo. This will take the mesh and offsetter. So the offsetter is what we're going to use to offset the animation of our instances. I'm just going to get rid of all these other values. You are free to play around with this as much as you want. In this case, I'm only rotating it on the x-axis and on the z-axis. And the only difference here is that I'm dividing the offsetter here by 0.8 so that once again the animation is different. So then they're not all moving at the same speed, but you can animate the Y rotation also, play around with the different combinations and see which one you like best. In this case, this is what we're going to be doing. Okay, then we're going to update matrix setter, and then we're going to set the matrix of our mesh using matrix setter. So next we're going to set our instance matrix needs update to true. So then over here, then we'll start then making changes to the different meshes using our randomizer function. And then inside of our render function, we are going to then call animate geo. This is what's going to be animating our mesh. So everything will be updating inside of this function. These are the settings that I have gone with, so you are free to offset it as you please. Alright, so this is what our animation looks like so far. We've gotten this far. The last thing that we're gonna do is animate our camera. So we're gonna basically be rotating our camera around this geometry. So this is how you're gonna also get the effect of the color change because of the environment map that we're using on our material. Okay, so before I create our camera group, I'm just gonna remove this for now because we don't really need it. So over here, I'm gonna create our camera group and I will add our camera inside. And then I will add our camera group inside the scene. And then inside our render function, we're going to say cam group rotation.y plus equals 0.002. Yes, I just got an error. Just silly me. I forgot to actually include this image in the directory. So I'm just going to do that quickly. Over here, where we're loading our texture, yes, I'm gonna change that because this is actually the wrong directory. Okay, because I copied and pasted it, then this is a different folder. So I'm just gonna change that and everything should be fine. Okay, so that is sorted. So yeah, this is the look that we're looking for. Yeah, I'm also gonna adjust the camera a little bit and bring just a bit closer because it looks far. So okay, so that's better. So there we go. So this is our animation. You can take this and now play around with it, do whatever you like. But overall, yeah, this is how I created this. So you can check what it looks like with wireframe. That also looks very interesting. But yeah, I think that's it for now. So if you've watched till this far and you haven't subscribed, well, this is your opportunity to hit subscribe, press the notification bell, and definitely hit that like button. So without saying a lot, I'm just gonna say thanks for tuning in. Till the next one, I'm out.